Philadelphia 76ers record of 68 points. And Karl Anthony Towns got in the mix, dropping 62 points on the Charlotte Hornets. But T-Wolves lose 128-125. The Tennessee Titans are nearing a deal to make the Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan their next head coach, and the Seattle Seahawks have a slew of second interviews. Coaching carousel continues. Lots of hoops to talk about. Devon Pouncey joins us live in studio in hour number 3, but hour number 1. It starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Tuesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. We're still blaming Josh Allen for the Bills' loss. Saw that. How much is Josh Allen to blame for the Bills' loss? Dude, he's playing Patrick Mahomes. And I was trying to think about that as we were talking yesterday. You know, growing up in the 80s and in the 90s, we had plenty of sports takes back in the day, but they were fewer and far between. There was, like, PTI wasn't a show. You would have, like, local radio, and every once in a while you would get, like, some national radio. And, again, I grew up in a very small town, so, like, at night you could get, but, like, I could only imagine what the hot takes must have been like back in the 90s when Jordan was running roughshod. Like, Brendan, what would Twitter be like? We've talked about this before, that I do believe, while Jordan is the greatest of all time, and he's the greatest athlete in terms of an entity, of a brand, everything that Michael Jordan encompassed, and we saw it all in The Last Dance. But I will say one of the benefits that Jordan had, he did not have to play during Twitter. Could you imagine knowing the pettiness, the anger, the grudge holding that Michael Jordan had just for, like, Sports Illustrated? Michael Jordan went and played baseball. It didn't go as bad as you thought. If you truly go back and look at the Jordan baseball thing, but, like, the greatest basketball player of all time, who was just coming off of 3 NBA championships, just decided he's going to try to play Major League Baseball. Like, that happened in my lifetime. And Sports Illustrated was like, yeah, Michael, you're making a joke of this. And, of course, the theme, bag it, Michael, as he's striking out. And, of course, Jordan, from that point on, I believe, we talked about Sports Illustrated yesterday, Michael Jordan never talked to Sports Illustrated ever again. And could you imagine what it would have been like in a Twitter, social media, podcast world if Michael Jordan was playing in the 90s? But also on the other part of it, because, look, if you are a Buffalo Bills fan, you don't want to hear this. And I understand. We all watch sports through the lens of our favorite teams. We all watch sports through our own fandom and our own eyeballs. I am not objective when I watch Oregon football play. I'm just not. We all, like, because we all do that thing, right? A field goal here changes the game. It's like, well, but what about the time the other team fumbled? Well, yeah, we earned that. Like, that guy doesn't fumble in that situation. That's a totally different game. It's like, yeah, but what about the one interception that your team got? Like, we look through the lens of our own team. But when you are looking back, so if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, last thing you want to hear is, dude, you just had to play Patrick Mahomes. Like, what do you, like, this? We're in the middle of a new dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs, which they are very, very close, right? They win their third, like, you think about, like, coaches and players, because we all got so spoiled with Tom Brady, and just one dude is going to the Super Bowl. Like, what did he go to 10 Super Bowls? Isn't that the count? Won 3 or lost 3, won 7. 10, like 10. Think about the quarterbacks that have just 2 Super Bowl rings. Peyton Manning, by the way, 1. 1 Super Bowl ring. Or, excuse me. No, he won 2. My fault. But Peyton Manning, 2. Eli, I always forget about that last one in Denver. That last one in Denver, because it wasn't like he played the best, but still won a Super Bowl. Was that Von Miller? Dude. Peyton Manning, 2 Super Bowls. Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls. Ben Roethlisberger, 2 Super Bowls. See what I'm getting at here? That is the mark of a Hall of Fame quarterback. Other than Tom Brady with his 7, I think you got to go back to Troy Aikman, because Troy Aikman had 3. And then you got to go back to Joe Montana in the 80s. But, John Elway, Hall of Famer, 2 Super Bowls. That's it. Lost a couple of them. I think Joe had 4.
Yeah, that's 4 for Joe and 3 MVPs on top of it all. So that dude dominated in the postseason. We know that.
But you see, you know how, skewed we are because of what Tom Brady was able to do? He won 7. Next closest is 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's Montana.
It's Montana and Bradshaw in the 70s.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw in the 70s. He won 4. And then it's Montana. And then it's Troy Aikman with 3. But Hall of Fame careers are made by winning just 2 Super Bowls. Just 2. And it's like Patrick Mahomes is about potentially, now he's got to win 2 more games. And they got to go into Baltimore. They got to figure out how to win that. And if they do and win a 3rd Super Bowl, then boom, we've got the birth of a new dynasty. We're real close, but the Josh Allen part of it is wow. It's yeah, because Patrick Mahomes is potentially on the cusp of winning 3 Super Bowls, which is something that Peyton Manning didn't do, which is something that Ben Roethlisberger didn't do. It is something that Eli Manning didn't do. It's something that Steve Young didn't do. 3 Super Bowls is at such an unbelievable high level. And so I was thinking about that with the whole Josh Allen thing. You had Karl Malone had their championship window there, because I don't know if you saw Josh Allen said, I still think our championship window is open. And it very well could be. It's not like he's over the hill. It's not like time is a ticking, but there was a lot of teams in the 90s playing basketball against the Bulls going, we'll get them next year. We'll get them next year. And then they did not. And I'm just wondering, Brendan, what would the Twitter hot take machine be like now for a guy like Patrick Ewing? Hall of Fame career, perennial all-star, arguably the best center in the NBA. You could make other arguments because there were other great centers back then, but arguably the best center in the game. Couldn't get past Michael Jordan. Took him to Game 7 once, couldn't get past Michael Jordan. And it's when is Patrick Ewing going to... Now we look back and go well, yeah. Dude was playing against Michael Jordan. Karl Malone and the Jazz, now again, I think Karl Malone is very happy that the majority of his career did not have social media. Don't know if he would have survived the social media scrubbing that goes on. But it's yeah, your team's really, really good. Ran into a buzzsaw. It's called Michael Jordan. And it's maybe I'm being too simplistic. I don't know. The reason why I brought this up, I'm looking at ESPN right now on Get Up. It's how much is Josh Allen to blame for Sunday's loss? It's how much is Patrick Mahomes to credit for Sunday's win? Poor Josh Allen's just getting raked over the coals. He's think about this. And I know, look, they've got a job to do. We've got a job to do. We always throw out these questions, and a lot of them are unfair, and Josh Allen's getting paid an awful lot to deal with. But, imagine if you're Josh Allen, and you're just this is your talking point, is how much am I to blame for the loss? Kicker missed a 44-yard field goal. Also, the last time this went down 2 years ago, I gave my team a lead with 13 seconds to go. What do you want me to do? Now, you could go back and be You had Stephon Diggs underneath. You went for the home run ball. I think it was like second. I think it was on second down.
No, that was third. It was.
Third down. And Stephon Diggs is wide open underneath.
He and Diggs have so many problems. I guarantee you Diggs will not be on that team
you think Stephon Diggs is gone? Stephon Diggs is out.
I guarantee.
Didn't he just sign an extension, though? Wasn't that the whole thing? Because remember, he was like in the facility and he was out of the facility, and then he talked to like the owner on like the owner's bus, and like I thought he just got an extension. I don't know if Stephon Diggs is going anywhere. Because I thought they.
He's got a couple years left. I would not be surprised to see them trade him, but we'll see.
I don't think he's
Those two got some things to figure out.
I don't think he's going. I talk about this last year a ton. And it was brought up with Aaron Rodgers a little bit, but like, it's got to be so frustrating for like NFL players watching NBA players. Now, what do I mean by that? We talk about the player empowerment era, where like, not even the elite of the elite get to choose wherever they want to go. If you've made a couple of all-star teams, you get to kind of pick and choose where you want to go. Bradley Beal was like Bradley Beal, good player, hardly he's not top 75 player of all time. You know what I mean? Like, and Bradley Beal was like, yeah, I want out of here, and I would like to go play somewhere warm where we can win. And it's like, Bradley, these NFL players got to be so frustrated. Like, yeah, I want out of here. It's like, that's great, Stephon, that you want out of here. No, that's the answer. You don't get to leave. You can be frustrated, and you can throw your Microsoft Surface all over the sideline that you want. You can throw fits up and down, but you're not leaving. We got you for 2 years. I don't think he's going anywhere. But you never know. Do you think we're ever going to get to a place where non-quarterbacks are able to kind of pull like the NBA model of like, hey, I've got 3 years left. Like Russell Wilson pulled it off because he had 2 years on his contract, and or a year and a half, I think. And Russell Wilson said, when my contract's up, I'm not re-signing. And as a quarterback, there's that leverage. And the Seahawks had to be like, all right, fine, we're trading you.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson could pull that off. There are several receivers. Tyreek Hill could pull that off. There are several receivers who, if they said, I'm not going to play for you.
I'm not going to re-sign. Like, if you have 2 years left on a deal and you go like, if you don't trade me, just so you know, I'm not going to re-sign.
I would say the star receivers absolutely can, because they already, and I mean this with love, but they already have diva personalities anyway, most of them. So I think the best receivers are divas, to be perfectly honest.
I think it was a conversation I had over a decade ago. We had Fentress on the show yesterday, and I think me and Fentress had this conversation over a decade ago, because the wide receiver diva thing is not a new concept, right? And he brought up a theory that I've kind of borrowed, I've sampled, I've interpolated. That's what the kids call it now. No, this is not a sample. I just interpolated it. What does that mean? Well, I took somebody's really good idea and I made it my own. It's because it's, other than really quarterbacks, it's the only position on the field where you not taking any contact. Like offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, every play contact. Every single snap, they are out there, contact. Safeties, 70% contact. Corners and receivers, less than 50%. Like, it's almost like an unspoken rule. It's like, look, I'm going to stock block you. Like, it was just, don't go for my knees. And we're going to get past this. And then when the ball's up in the air, you can maybe get an interception. I can maybe get a catch. But, like, it's the fact that they just don't take any contact. And so it's like, also, I think there is, I think I talked to Alex Brink about this. There's something about the fact that it takes wide receivers like the longest to get back to the huddle, and they've got to get the longest to their position, that they only have such a smidge of time to tell a quarterback, dude, I'm wide open. And so it's like, you got to be a diva. All right. A lot of fun stuff to dive into on the big show today. Devon Pouncey is going to be joining us in hour number 3. He was on the Blazers pregame show last week. Looked awesome. Sounded great. got Brooke Olzendam and Tom Habistro to say super dope. So very pumped to have Pounce back in studio. So we're going to talk a ton of hoops with him. Embiid dropping 70 last night. And again, we have had this conversation. Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, best player in the world. Seems to change up week to week because obviously I have the attention span of a gnat sometimes. Like, oh, Embiid, is he the best player in the world? So we'll have that conversation as we sit right now with Embiid dropping in 70 points. Get his thoughts on kind of where the Blazers go from here because we're getting into that nitty-gritty time with the trade deadline just around the corner. So we'll talk to Pounce coming up in hour number 3. Also, we may be bringing back a classic old segment from the Justin and Devon days. Text him last night after a couple of drinks. It's like, a classic old segment might be coming back. So we're going to talk to Pounce. But coming up next, Coaching Carousel continues and why we have yet to learn our lesson. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you next. 620 Rip City Radio. there are a couple of jobs out there that are, I don't want to say a scam, but kind of a scam. And I know this because I lived in the college football world in my time in Eugene. Brendan knows this, even though he doesn't know what I'm about to say right now, because he lives in the college football world, especially on the internet right now. And one of the biggest scams for a long, long time, and it's changing now, but for a long, long time, it was recruiting rankings were a bit of a scam. And what do I mean by that? Well, because there was a lot of reporters who would grade out, because before there were stars, you would get grades, and then they created a star system. And they created this star system in college football recruiting, and it was a fail-safe. It was a fail-safe job because everybody in college football is so starved. So starved for content by February. Now, it's changed because it's in December now, but by February, when the old signing day used to happen, and we'd go and we'd look at the rankings. And the reason I said it was a bit of a scam is because there was no way, unless you actually had to put in the actual work, to go back and call out bad rankings. Because by the time these high school players were, say, redshirt sophomores, it's been 3 years. Very few people do the legwork and go back and take a look at the rankings of player by player. It was such a sham. It was like, and by the way, not criticism, impressive. Because there's a lot of people that made a lot of money on the internet with recruiting about, look at all these 3 stars, look at all these 4 stars. And it's like, yeah, but by the time, and as consumers, this is where I'm going with this, we never learned our lesson. We've never learned our lesson. Now, recruiting is very, very different now with NIL and all that kind of stuff. And the rankings are, I think, much, much, much more sophisticated. They're ranked by scouts. And because when the money came in, then these sites like Rivals could go out and they could hire scouts and football coaches and be like, hey, you want to rank these high school players? Now they're much more sophisticated. But it was such a great deal for those writers and those reporters because it's like, it's a consequence-free environment. This is the number 3 class in all of college football. All right, when are we going to find out? In 3 years. Well, by 3 years, 2 more cycles have gone by, and you're like, well, what's the next? You're selling hope, right? You're selling hope. Draft grades, same thing. Now, it's a little bit faster turnover, but it's, again, something that we never learn our lesson. Because you get these guys out there, and sure, they're the Mel Kipers and the Todd McShays of the world who have been doing it year in and year out, but there's a lot of people who do mock drafts and draft grades, and it's like, B-plus drafts, like, when are we going to find out? Like 2 years. And freezing cold takes will come back because it'll show, like, the Seahawks, when they drafted, like, Russell Wilson, like, 3 Hall of Famers, like, C- on that draft. I think that was the 2012 draft. But by the time we understand and know what the actual grade is, well, time has come and gone. We never learn our lesson, which brings me to today's lesson, kids. Beware of coaching hire hot takes. Beware of the coaching hire hot takes. I've been talking about it all year, that I love the fact that Dan Campbell, and I have no dog in this fight, I am not a Lions fan. I love the fact that Dan Campbell is succeeding because 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago when he was hired, there was nothing but hot takes about how much of a joke this was. This guy's a tight ends coach from New Orleans. Think about all of the qualified candidates that were overlooked to hire this guy. And so, all right, got a tight ends coach from the New Orleans Saints. Former player, grinder. He was an interim coach for a while when Sean Payton, I think, got bounced. But for the most part, he was a tight ends coach. And then he comes in introductory press conference. Listen, man, I want us biting kneecaps. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't care. And then he was on Hard Knocks. And then on Hard Knocks, like, I don't care if we have half a, he didn't say behind, but half a butt cheek. And and it's like, whoa. Guys in the NFC Championship game. This guy's in the NFC Championship game. Now, they're 7-point underdogs, but still, anything can happen, as we learned last year. One injury all of a sudden changes the fates of you got a shot. That guy. Everybody. I bet you if you went back and coaching higher grades, F- Detroit Lions. Beware, as we are going through the coaching carousel right now, beware of the coaching carousel or the coaching hot takes, because we never learn our lesson. It's the beautiful thing about being a head coach in the NFL, or the position of head coach. There is no blueprint. There is no rhyme. There is no reason. Nobody can figure it out. Just like the draft. Nobody can figure out what is the perfect person to draft number 1 overall. If they did, they'd never be busts. Guess what? There's a bust every single year. Guess what? Every single year, there's going to be about 5, 6, 7 coaching hires, and somebody is going to have it figured out, whether it is a match with the fan base, the culture, the organization, the players on the roster, hiring a proper group of assistant coaches. So many, and nobody's figured it out yet. And I know that we are in the take business, and I know that I'm supposed to be on here and supposed to give you my opinion. Shall remain nameless, but I worked one time with a radio host, Brendan, never gave his opinion. Never. It's like, hey, what do you think? Well, could go either way, could be win-win, could be lose-lose. Never gave it. It's like, dude, at some point, you got to give an opinion, dude. Now, we give hot takes on this program, but it's about unimportant things. But I've also learned my lesson enough. I've also spouted off so many wrong, dumb, idiotic takes, especially my dumbest take of all time, which I admit fully. Trailblazers should draft Adam Morrison, not Brandon Roy. Dumbest take of all time. I was there, in the chair, with the microphone, said it out loud multiple times. Learned my lesson. Nobody's figured out the draft. Nobody's figured out coaching hires. And evidence need to be seen. Look at Dan Campbell in Detroit. Perfect coaching, perfect for what that city, that organization, that team needs. And whether it's college or whether it's the NFL, every coach comes in and says the same thing. Brendan, let's play a little game of the password. It's a very old game where it was every coach comes in and says, we're going to change the blank. New coaches in college and in the NFL come in and they say, we're going to come in and we are going to change the blank. What would you say is probably the most common phrase there?
Culture.
But right on it. We could win at password. Do you know password? You ever heard of the game password?
Very vaguely.
Vaguely? Ask your parents. They know. It's a very big deal. Yes, we're going to change the culture. Every coach says that. And then, every August I watch Hard Knocks, and guess what? Almost every single culture in the NFL, they're all the same, right? They're all the same. Same speeches. Same, hey, you want to play on this team, you got to play special teams. We got to do the little things. It's about the process, blah, 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 blah. Same thing. Guess what? You watch Hard Knocks with Dan Campbell, he changed the culture. Because being a head coach in the NFL, outside of having a quarterback, very important. But being a head coach is about, are they buying what you are selling? That's the biggest thing. After having a quarterback and having a competent GM, if you're not the GM, who understands player personnel, does the team buy what you are selling? Because if you walk in and say, man, it's going to take every single one of you giving 100% effort, and if that team was like, I'm not buying what this guy's selling. I'm here to get paid. I'm here to get my sacks. I'm here to get my elevations. I'm here to get my my incentives or escalators, not elevations. I'm here for my escalate. You're not going to win because nobody's buying into what the coach is selling. I don't know how he pulled it off. And again, goes back to the randomness of football, which is why it's so great. Brendan, I don't know how he pulled it off, but there is no doubt that the Detroit Lions are buying what Dan Campbell is selling. He said biting kneecaps and fighting with half a butt cheek, and we laughed, and they were like, yep, let's do it. This is how we want to play. This is the type of team we want to have. So, point being, beware of the coaching hire hot takes. Brendan brought it to my attention with what's almost said Bill Callahan. It's not him. Brian Callahan, who is now going to be the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He's the offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, not so much this year, but in years past with Joe Burrow, pretty good offense. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. Bengals move the ball pretty well. But the hot takes are already coming out, right? Zach Taylor calls the plays. He doesn't even, what do these people think assistant coaches do? What? I heard it all the time when Mark Helfrich took over for Chip Kelly. Well, Chip Kelly called the plays. I was like, yeah, what did you think Mark Helfrich did? Now, it didn't end well, but in 2 years, he had a team in a national title game and won a college football playoff game. Never forget that, Oregon fans. Greatest win in Oregon football history was coached by Mark Helfrich. Never forget it. But, what do they think these guys do? Is the knock on Eric Bieniemy for how long? Well, Andy Reid calls the plays. Then why is he even on staff? Why is he even there? More morale? Is he does he just bring the coffee so that Andy Reid can sit up there and draw up plays? These guys are in the building. Yet every single year we get, what a terrible coaching hire. Doesn't even call the plays. I know it's not good radio. I know it's not good podcast. It's not good internet. It's not good social media. But it is the ultimate kind of well, wait and see. I don't know. Is DeMeco Ryans the perfect guy for the Houston Texans? Sure seems like it now. Got C.J. Stroud. Got everybody figured it out. A lot of people thought Frank Reich was the perfect guy for the Carolina Panthers. Remember that? Now he failed and got fired in Indianapolis. Yeah, but Frank Reich, he's from there. He understands that build. Remember all the I don't want to say hot takes, but the bad takes on Frank Reich? Yeah, quarterback. He's going to bring Bryce Young. How long do you last? 11 weeks? Gone. See ya. Beware of the coaching hot takes. Learn your lesson. Learn your lesson as a consumer. If it, just like when you go to the store, took me a while, Brendan, but I finally am on to the supermarket's tricks. Yeah, it's an end cap. That's why they want you to buy it. Look at all these snacks they put right near the cash register. Yeah, they put them there for a reason. Learn your lesson. Because Dan Campbell was the biggest joke of a hire 3 years ago. Not so much now. People say change the culture. He changed the culture. Other interesting tidbits going on in the coaching world. Brendan, help me out because you found this. I believe it was CBS Sports talking about Chip Kelly. And so I want to make sure that people know we're not bringing this out of thin air. But apparently, according to somebody at CBS Sports, Chip Kelly is being looked at by potential NFL teams as an offensive coordinator. Now, that doesn't make an awful lot of sense, does it? Chip Kelly's a head coach of a college football team. Now, how likely is he to stay the head coach of said college football team heading into the Big Ten? I know he was kind of on the hot seat this year. And I would imagine UCLA going into the Big Ten, the last thing you want to do is then go through a coaching hire. But if they don't make a bowl game next year, UCLA might be looking for a head coach because they're going to get they got $75 million from the Big Ten, by the way, because they did not get in on the discounted deal that Oregon and Washington got. They're getting $75 million, and they're going to have some money to throw around. But apparently, according to CBS Sports, multiple NFL teams were looking at potentially bringing on Chip Kelly, engaging his interest in becoming an offensive coordinator. And the theory behind it is if Chip Kelly ever wants to coach as a head coach in the NFL again, the NFL is going to make him prove it. It's like, dude, you're 0 for 2. You want to be a head coach, you got to prove it. Now, I have said the football circles that these men, these coaches live in, very, very small circles. People know things. This story didn't pop up out of nowhere unless somebody who knows somebody knows that Chip Kelly is maybe potentially eyeballing the NFL once again. And I wonder if, like, Nick Saban might be the start of it. But, Brendan, how many coaches in college football right now are seeing the future and going like, you know what I don't want to do? Negotiate NIL deals with 19-year-olds. I'll recruit them. I'll bring them in. I'll show them their facilities. I'll razzle-dazzle old mom and dad. I'll get on that couch and I'll choke down that gross chicken and mashed potatoes. And I'll do my recruiting thing. You know what I don't want to do? Deal with some 19-year-old's age, I'm using air quotes, agent, who happens to be like dad's financial advisor. And now we got to re-up every single year. There's going to be, I think, a handful of college football coaches out there who are just like, I can't do this anymore. If I'm going to deal with negotiations, if I'm going to deal with money and payment, I might as well go back to the NFL or go try my luck at the NFL, where at least these guys are under contract. It seems a bit crazy for a guy like Chip Kelly who's making I think he's in the middle of like a $38 million contract with UCLA. Why you would ever want to then leave that to go back to being a coordinator in the NFL. But the only thing I can think of is if you're not like Dan Lanning, who is young, hungry, recruiting obsessed, right? If you're not that guy, if you are not out there pounding the pavement and plus have a monster NIL machine behind you, if you're not Kirby Smart, who's just out there grinding, I can understand where some of these college coaches are like, recruiting is one thing. Now I got a backup running back who's coming to me in December saying, like, I need more NIL money or I'm transferring. It's like, now I got to deal with that. Give me the NFL. Give me the NFL. I'll be a running backs coach for the Ravens. You know what I mean?
Hey, don't throw shit on Willie Taggart.
But I mean,
he worked hard to get that job, Justin. No family connections or anything.
Willie Taggart's a good coach. Made a bad decision. Should have never left Oregon, but
this is true.
Should have never left. But you know what I mean? Like, I think Nick Saban saw the future, and Nick Saban's like, this NIL stuff, whatever. He was pro it, but he's like, I'm not negotiating with 19-year-olds. I'm not doing it. I've done enough in my life. I've been through the ringer enough. I ain't negotiating with a backup tight end.
I think it's more than that. Like, I think best case scenario, you're negotiating with 19-year-olds. Justin, worst case scenario, you're negotiating with 17-year-olds. Or 17-year-olds' dad, who was like,
or 17-year-old dad's buddy who took a junior college accounting class one time. Yeah.
It's like, Nick, no, you've never seen a player as good as my son. Never, ever, ever.
So we're looking at $850,000.
Yeah, that's not enough for my son.
Base. It's like, what? We're not doing it. All right. Big scoring night in the NBA last night. We got Round Ball Rock coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number one. What a night. What a night in the NBA last night. Couple of big scoring performances, couple of interesting outcomes. Blazers going to be back in action tonight. They'll be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's keep this one within 60, boys. All right? Let's keep this one within 60. We can do it. Can happen. But an interesting night statistically for a handful of players. Let's get some Tesh going with a little round ball rock. Wonder how Giannis is feeling today. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by how Giannis is feeling? Now, the Bucks beat the Pistons. The Pistons stink. Probably a little bit closer than they thought. It was 122-113. Giannis went 31-17-10. That's a night. That's a night in the NBA. I don't care if you're playing the Pistons. Like, you go 31-17-10. That's a legit triple-double. On a Monday night, that's looking at the best performance of the night. Giannis probably picked up his phone. Let's see what anybody else was doing. Karl Anthony Towns at 62. But they lost to the Hornets. For the Hornets, just 10th win of the season. Anybody else do anything? Oh, yeah. Embiid had 17 points. Embiid had, or 70 points. Did I say 17? 70 points in a 133-123 win against the Spurs. So, it brings me to the question. The Will Chamberlain 100-point game, never going to happen. Never going to happen again. If anybody knows the circumstances of that game, it was a fluke 100 points. It's one of the most overrated records. Now, it doesn't mean Will Chamberlain is an overrated player. He is an all-time great. And, of course, if you ask our good friend Dwight James, he says he's the greatest player of all time. Not going to argue with him. Never saw him play in person. But the 100-point game is one of the most overrated accomplishments in all of sports. It was a conceived 100 points, and both teams were in on the scam. That being said, I believe the next mark is what Kobe got 81 against the Toronto Raptors. Somebody gonna snap that 81? And, because
it could be.
Clearly, players in the NBA, Brendan, are good enough to score that many points. Clearly, what you have to have is a team willing to let you, and a coach and an organization willing to let you go off.
I mean, I think it will happen. I think Kobe's mark can be topped. I joked with you, like, I think the greatest scorer maybe to ever play the game of basketball resides down in the Bay Area. And I know that sometimes Steph Curry can just wake up and be like, yeah, I'm going to go for 40, 50, 60 tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, like, Will Chamberlain's 100-point record, like, that's, like, everyone has to have, like, a where do you think it can stop? Like, could a player get 80? I don't know that a player could get any more than that in today's world. I really don't. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if a team decided, like the Philadelphia Warriors did back in the day against the New York Knicks in Hershey, Pennsylvania, in front of a sparse crowd where no cameras were at, if a team decided, this is where, by the way, also the starting center didn't play for the New York Knicks. He was hungover. Claimed he had the flu, was hungover. If a team decided one night, we're going to, like, our boy's getting a record. You know, now you would have to, like, see, that's the other part of it. Back when Will Chamberlain got his 100 points, they knew, like, hey, Nick's starting center's out. He's not playing. There's no way they can stop him. Let's get the record tonight. And they just kept giving the ball to Wilt, fouling on purpose, all that stuff. But I think for an NBA player to get into the Kobe stratosphere of the 81 points he had against the Raptors, right? You got to come out like super hot, which we've seen. We've seen like Steph or even Dame, for that matter, come out first quarter. It's like, all right, clearly it's big guy's night tonight. Then you have to almost have like a coordinated effort to nobody else is part of the offense. And that's where I think it gets tough and a little bit tricky. Is like, can you convince the rest of the team that we're going for a record tonight. It has to be cool. So I would have said the best candidate to break Kobe's mark of 81 was James Harden. Because James Harden is just selfish enough to try it. But I don't know with James Harden with the Clippers is never going to pull it off. If you had to pick your pony, as they say, Brendan, who in the NBA right now, if you were like, if they had it cooking, you going with Steph?
No, that time is, I think, kind of passed him by. Not to say he's getting old, but he kind of getting up there a little bit. I think.
But if he just comes out on fire shooting, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like all threes.
Certainly possible. I would roll with Anthony Edwards or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think those guys.
You got to have the legs too.
Yeah, like I said, I think those guys.
Because we learned that from Dame last year when he dropped that 70 piece.
Like Curry's 35, Justin. Like I'm just saying, like that's kind of up there for a basketball player that's not LeBron James, right?
But the reason why I bring up Steph is because he can shoot.
Shooting is an ageless.
Yeah, he's like if he could just not drive to the basket and just make a bunch of threes, and just like, hey guys, I'm on fire tonight. Give me the ball. Either way, 70 from Embiid last night. Is he the best player in the world? We'll talk to Devon Pouncey coming up in hour number 3. But hour number 2 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio.
what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trail Blazers return to action, facing off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Hopefully it will go better this time around as they tip off at 5 o'clock. Pregame coverage begins at 2:30 right here on 620 Rip City Radio. Massive scoring night in the NBA last night. Joel Embiid, 70 points on the Spurs to top Wilt Chamberlain's Philadelphia record of 68 points. Karl Anthony Towns also got into the mix, dropping 62 points on the Charlotte Hornets. But T-Wolves lose 128-125. And in coaching news in the NFL, Tennessee Titans are nearing a deal to make Cincinnati offensive coordinator Brian Callahan their next head coach. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks with a slew of second-round interviews. Coming up in hour number 3, friend of the program, basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, Devon Pouncey, joins us live in studio for the entire third hour. But more questions loom around the Seattle Seahawks head coach and quarterback. Hour 2 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
It is hour number 2 of RCM. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully most of you have now power restored. Probably feels good to be back in the routine a little bit. Nothing like a good ice storm, Brendan, to make us appreciate the rain. You know? Not to name drop, but we talked about Chip Kelly earlier. I remember when Chip Kelly was hired on as an offensive coordinator back in the spring of 2007, and at the time I was doing anything and everything to get on the radio, and they're like, "Would you like to call some softball?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Because Oregon did not have a baseball team back then. Oregon State had just won a couple of national titles, and then Oregon was like, yeah, can't let them have all their fun. We're definitely going to try to crash that party. Never quite did that. Never quite got there. Defense feel pretty something about that, don't they?
Well, it's still ours, so can continue to try to buy one. They got close last year. They've got a couple times, Kent State, and then there've been a couple times. Even just getting to Omaha would be disappointing for me. That's still something, but
is that like
the thing is they'll get there. Mark Wasikowski is a great coach. I know they're going to have to start playing baseball in the Big Ten, but that's the Big Ten is not a baseball conference, so it's like
it's going to be weird.
I could see Oregon. I mean, they were really good they were a game away. So it's like Oral Roberts, darned. It was right there. So you put enough money into a program, Justin, you hire enough good coaches, it'll happen, man.
Maybe. Sometimes you can't buy everything. And I know that because I was there when Oregon State goes back-to-back. Three College World Series appearances in a row, twice coming away with the title. And all of a sudden, weird, Oregon's breaking ground on a baseball stadium. That's odd. Does this have anything to do with what's going on in Corvallis? Absolutely not. We have always wanted this. This was always the plan. That's weird. Yeah.
What happened to Oregon wrestling as a result, though, Justin?
Sorry, guys.
Come on now. No more grapplers down there in Eugene?
And we got team stunts and gymnastics. Or I believe it was competitive cheer, and then it was renamed Team Stunts and Gymnastics. That was a big deal. But anyways, point being, I was sitting there in the spring, and it was like, hey, Oregon just hired this offensive coordinator from New Hampshire. Like, okay. He's going to be at the softball game. Do you want to interview him? Yeah. Turns out that was Chip Kelly. Didn't know kind of what was going to happen from that point on. And obviously it's spring in the Willamette Valley, and I was like, yeah. Because I'm obsessed with weather. I'm like, yeah, the weather here. He's like, hey, I will never forget this. And, of course, it was very apropos last week because Chip Kelly looked at me and was like, you don't have to shovel rain. It rains, guess what? You start up your car, you drive to work. You know what you don't have to do? Shovel your car out. And I'm like, pretty good point right there. Because I can only imagine what it must be like. Just like wake up in the morning. It's like, all right, I got to get to work. I got four-wheel drive. I got studded tires. I got everything. Yeah, but we got to shovel out just to open the door. So hopefully everybody back in their routine. Happy the rain came, melted away the white death, and we are back to somewhat of a normal way. A lot of trees still down. A lot of trees still down.
The the only bit of grumpiness I have on this Tuesday, Justin, is the fact that my normal route into work is still not clear.
Yeah.
So the fine folks at the city of Tigard, I know they got a lot of things.
They're working.
They need to work their way
round the clock,
and they need to work their way over here faster.
We'll get you a chainsaw.
Hey, we are beavers, man.
You ever fired up a chainsaw?
Oh yeah.
I figured you would. You're from Sherwood. Your family's in the logging timber / industry.
Yeah.
I figured at one point in your life you probably fired up a chainsaw.
We used to have to, back when we'd go over to our cabins in Eastern Oregon, have to chop wood and make the fireplace and all that stuff. And chainsaws were they were around for sure. So yeah.
I used to work at a golf course and
they had one.
We'd have to limb up trees every once in a while because they planted too many trees on this golf course. Nobody would ever admit it. I worked in the grounds crew in this golf course, and the owner was obsessed with trees. And it was like everybody was like, "Hey, whatever you do, if you're mowing, don't nick a tree." Rick will know, and you will get called out if you do. Admit it, right? Don't try to hide it. And so planted way too many trees. So finally, our superintendent was like, we got to do something with these trees. There's too many trees out here. There's barely a fairway. And so we fired up the chainsaw, and then can I tell you the coolest bit of equipment that I have ever used, the most satisfying bit of equipment that I have ever used, working grounds crew at a golf course, Brendan, wood chipper. Oh, it was awesome. It was the coolest thing ever. Scared the bejesus out of me. Watched the movie Fargo one too many times, but I fired up that wood chipper.
Yeah, no, that thing was. Everybody.
You ever fire up a wood chipper?
No, but
they're the best.
I've been right neck. You're talking the big ones.
Yeah,
that can take a full tree.
You got to haul it.
Yes,
but with a truck. Yeah. With a dually.
Oh yeah, no, I always remember those chippers. You'd hear them. They were so loud.
So awesome.
And it would crush a tree in about 5 seconds.
So awesome. All right, enough about that. Enough about wood chippers. We were talking about the coaching carousel. It looks like Jim Harbaugh maybe potentially is the leading candidate going on with the Los Angeles Chargers. I find it very interesting that Brendan, it's gotten a little quiet in the old Harbaugh thing. Now, is that maybe because John Harbaugh is about to coach his way into the Super Bowl? Is that maybe just the way the whole process is working? I'm surprised if Jim. Sounds to me, though, if I had to guess, if I were a betting man, if I were to make an educated guess, I would imagine Jim Harbaugh and his agent are probably on the phone with both who's the owner of the Chargers?
Dean Spanos.
Dean Spanos. We don't like him. Bad guy. Moved him out of San Diego. Alienated an entire fan base. Moved him to a soccer stadium to get his fancy pants new stadium. But anyways.
He's kind of just like Kroenke's tenant, is he not?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. I'd love to know how much Dean Spanos actually forked over for SoFi, because, Justin, you got the deed, right, to that stadium. Do you think it says Stan Kroenke and Dean Spanos?
No, I think they're just, they're a tenant, I believe, and that Kroenke owns SoFi. So, when Taylor Swift sells it out, 4 nights in a row,
it is Kroenke Sports and Entertainment.
Yeah,
100% holding SoFi Stadium, Justin.
Yeah, and then
there ain't no investors.
The Chargers are renting. But it'd be fascinating if the Chargers do get Jim Harbaugh. But I would imagine right now, Jim Harbaugh's agent is probably on the phone with the high-priced boosters at Michigan. So here's my question. Let's say Jim Harbaugh is offered the head coaching job of the Los Angeles Chargers, and you are the Michigan financial people, right? You are the high money, probably a lot of auto executive money, right? There in Ann Arbor, the higher ups for the M Club, we support you. Those guys.
Ford still making Ford what it once was? Is that the power that it once was, Justin? As you know, like you mentioned, a lot of Ford money up there.
Yeah. Well, the Lions, owned by the Ford family,
Sure.
are a game away from the Super Bowl.
Sure.
So,
But
how about that?
yeah, it's very true. Good
Do you
time to
see,
be
by the way, real quick, you got me distracted,
Sure.
but
No,
that's
sure.
okay. The owner now, like the sitting owner of the Detroit Lions,
Yeah,
she is the great-granddaughter of Henry Ford.
yeah. She's like 93.
Yeah,
She's very
but
old.
but the other side of her family?
The Firestone family.
Yeah.
So, again,
Whoa.
I learned this a little bit, and again, sorry, quick aside.
She owns the Lions, Ford, and Firestone.
Yeah.
Talk about like American brand.
I
right
learned this
there.
a little bit, Justin, when watching Game of Thrones. Apparently, powerful families like to marry their kids together because then they just consolidate more top of the 1% wealth.
But instead of royalty like they do in Europe, we just put like, hey guys, Ford and Firestone, cars and tires.
You guys are
Let's
set.
do.
I mean, it's a genius.
And then let's buy the Lions.
It was a genius move. I don't know if it was.
Well, hopefully it was some at least some attraction and some
No,
some passion and romance.
Like Henry Ford II's like, grandson, the Firstones are 2 mansions down. They got a daughter. You know what I mean?
Was it Etzel? I think it was
Yeah,
Etzel.
I think it was. Yeah, so it's that. You're right. They like basically own a monopoly on like the entire state of Michigan, Justin.
All right, so let's just say, like those people, like
Yeah.
let's just say they love Michigan football. What's the number? What's the number for if you were because the idea that Jim Harbaugh just won Michigan a national title and they shall bid him a fond farewell, like, hey, thanks for winning us a national title, Jim. Please, go back to the NFL. It's your dream. It's your passion. I know it probably eats at you that your brother won a Super Bowl and you didn't, either as a player or as a coach, and you got real close. But Michigan's not going to give up this seat at the head of the table, right? In college football, you get dynasties. You get a run. Alabama is now in limbo. Georgia's still a wagon. So much change going on in the Big Ten. So much change in terms of money and influence coming into college. Michigan doesn't want to give up this spot. They fought for 30 years. From like the 90s to get back there, right? They were Ohio State's whipping boy for all the, like, from Tressel to Urban to even like Ryan Day for a little bit, right? They were just getting slapped around by the Ohio State Buckeyes and the rest of college football. And now they're finally at the head of the table. You think if Jim Harbaugh takes that job with the Chargers, they're just going to go down without a fight? What do you think the number is? Is it north of? Okay, so from what I understand, now we don't know certain coaches' salaries because they work at private. Like Lincoln Riley, we don't know. We don't know how much money Lincoln Riley is making. From what I understand, the top of the mountain right now is Brian Kelly at $15 million, right? Does that sound about right, Brendan? 15
for college, yes.
For college, yes.
Yes.
I should have clarified, yes. For college.
I also think Jim Harbaugh is one of those guys who could transcendently ask to be the highest paid coach in North American sports. And again,
I didn't get it.
If Bill Belichick decides to keep coaching, which I think he ultimately will end up in Atlanta, he ain't taking a pay cut. So that means Atlanta is going to continue to pay him at least that much, if not more. So
you don't think he'll take a pay cut?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think that's why Atlanta's really the only team that's reached out? Because it sounds like Bill Belichick was not hot on the market.
I mean, Arthur Blank does have a lot of Home Depot money, Justin.
Dude,
he's getting your money too.
Dude, I give him so much money.
Just saying,
Falcons should really, the amount of money that I spend at Home Depot, like the Falcons, should be way better.
I'm just saying, like, he's got some coffers, so you never know.
Little did I think that there would be a place that I would enjoy as much as when I went into Toys R Us as a little kid, as like when I go to Home Depot.
Oh, that's you. That's Disneyland for you. As an adult.
Dude, I love walking into Home Depot. It's like it is nothing but opportunity. It's the best.
You're a one-track mind guy. You don't cheat around and mess around with Lowe's if they've got a discount. You're a Home Depot guy.
I got a Lowe's gift card.
Oh,
for
break
the
and
holidays.
rank.
So it was a gift card, though.
Family should know you like Home Depot, though. Justin's like, maybe.
Be surprised. Be surprised what families don't pick up sometimes.
But yeah, all that to say.
But I'm saying, dude, my Home Depot, like, shout out Clackamas Home Depot. Like, I know it inside and out, too. It's like, I go in there and, like, My wife's like, do we need to ask? I'm like, nope, I know where it's at. I could throw on an orange vest right now.
Which one is that? Is that the Home Depot that's right off by like Oregon City, where you get off on that, or further north to Clackamas? Further
Gotcha. North, right there on 82nd and Johnson Creek.
Yeah,
that is my Home Depot. I love that place. Anyways,
but no,
back to the number. Do you think Jim Harbaugh could convince Michigan to pay him $20 million a year? $20 million a year.
I think that'd be.
He'll likely stay at the top of college football for at least the next 5 years.
I think he'll ask for it. I think that would be a little insane.
It's all insane at this point.
Yeah, I just don't put a lot of stock into this, Justin, because I think this is the year. I think he's gone. There's no better way to leave your alma mater. Like, again, I'll give a little heads up.
But Michigan's not going to let him go without a fight, right?
They won't, but it's like, a little shot to somebody else. When you're leaving your alma mater, Justin, you try to do it with grace and care instead of, essentially backing over the Neil O'Shea bus on your way out. That was basically the same thing. But, I think that when you consider, he's like, hey, guys, I was really successful in the NFL. If it wasn't for the fact that I ran into a little bit of hiccup at the end, I might have won a title. I'm destined to go there. I brought you guys a title. I'm gone.
And I got that Herbert guy this time.
Maybe I'm wrong.
All right. We were supposed to do a thing this time. We're going to push that to the next one because we've got Make or Miss coming up next here on 620 Rip City Radio. night last night out at Child Center. So we'll talk to Pounce about the remix, get his thoughts on the Blazers, and get his thoughts on both 70 points from Joel Embiid last night, 62 from Karl Anthony Towns. Did you see Anthony Edwards after the game? Basically just admitted, is like, yeah, we were not focused. We're trying to get Karl Anthony Towns as many points as possible. We weren't focused. He's like, that one's on me. I was like, whoa. He just came out and said the quiet part out loud. It's like, yeah, he got hot. I stopped shooting. We were trying to get him as many points as possible. That was immature of us. Like, dude, okay. So we'll talk to Pounce in hour number 3. Also, maybe for the old school Justin and Devon fans from a previous spot, might be bringing back a classic segment in hour number 3. So that's going to be coming up. You will also all get off my lawn, as it is a Grumpy Old Man Tuesday, as the ice is now melting, but the grumpiness did not melt away. But right now, it is time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good!
Yeah, same class. Same class.
Market.
Brogdon's a way better defender. Rozier can probably score you a little bit more, but it's comparable.
And I will say this, there's no way the Miami Heat were giving the Blazers anything for anybody ever again.
No, that relationship
so that
is
one's
soured.
probably done.
That's soured for a bit, Justin, as they say. So I don't think Pat Slick Riley's going to be calling a old 503 too soon. Know what I mean?
I don't think so either. But, so you could potentially find another. So, as we sit right now, Blazers have a first rounder from Golden State. If not in the top 4, right? It's top 4 protected.
Top 4 or top 3, I think. I think you might be right with top 4. Let me check into that.
But unless the Warriors completely collapse and ping pong balls bounce their way, they've got a first round pick from the Warriors. The Blazers aren't making the playoffs, so they're going to keep their first round pick from.
Sorry, Chicago again.
Yeah, Chicago doesn't get it, so they keep their first round pick.
No, that deal was like 6 years ago, but sorry, Chicago.
So that'll be 2, and then potentially, if this is the market, you could potentially get a third first round pick from Miami, or not Miami, but from, let's say, New York, or even the Lakers, or who else in the mix for a point guard? What's Philly up to? Philly need a point guard?
I think Philly could use some action. I think Cleveland would be somewhere that even. I mean, Brogdon is purely for these teams, and I think what he's looking at. Most of these teams we're talking about, they want him to come in and be that sixth man that he was, be able to shoot 40% from 3, play good defense, all those things. So, Justin, to that, it just depends on who can put together the best package. Like, that skill set is appealing to a lot of teams. Now, with that, I'd like to. The floor for me is I think they got to get a pick. and, maybe take some. Brogdon was going to have guaranteed salary next year, so maybe take a guy who's expiring this year, free up some room. But yeah, Justin, I mean, how do you feel, right? Let's leave the pick that could come in the Brogdon trade out of it potentially. This is what Portland was going to have 2 years ago until Paul George ruined it. 2 top 10 picks.
Yeah.
And now it's going to happen, barring, again, like Justin said, the Warriors winning like a 2% lottery chance, which, hey, that ping pong ball's bounced for a reason.
Things happen. It's weird.
But, yeah, I mean, 2 top 10 picks, you'd be I know them picks, Justin. I know how you feel about them picks.
Well,
But those are 2 pretty nice picks.
This is the thing that drives me nuts, and I see where you're coming from, and I also see what's going on. Like, picks are nice, but picks eventually become players. And a lot of people forget, like we talked about it with, with recruiting rankings and draft grades and all that stuff. It's like, at some point, these trades, when you get all these picks, and it's a great sell to the fan base of like, hey, we're rebuilding. Look at what we're accumulating. We can't keep 4 guys on the floor that all want to dribble the ball, right? Between Scoot, Ant, Brogdon, Shaden a little bit, a lot of guys want to dribble the ball. Like, we can't have all that. So Brogdon's going to ultimately get traded, and like you said, they are clearly showcasing him, and good for him, right? Brogdon doesn't want...
He deserves to play for a winner.
I don't know Malcolm Brogdon at all. I can't imagine he wants to play the rest of this year on a team that's going to win 20-some games, right? He don't want to do that.
I mean...
And by the way, if the trade deadline comes and goes and he's not traded, you're going to see some resentment there.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know Malcolm Brogdon. I would just speak from a human being standpoint. It was like, all right, so now I'm not going to Cleveland, New York, Philly. We're here, and we're going to win 20 games. And I'm going to play backup point guard to a 19-year-old because at some point, Scoot's going to have to start playing more minutes. And I know me and Fentress disagreed a little bit yesterday, but at some point, you got to just play the guy.
Right. And I think, with that, it's like, you look at his career path, right? With the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously a contender, and Giannis the entire time he's there. He was traded to Boston this last year because Boston thought he was kind of that piece they needed. As it turned out, they really liked Jrue Holiday a little bit more. But this is new for him, being on a team that is this much into rebuilding, Justin. I totally agree with you. I mean, Jeremy Grant, I know his name's been thrown out. He ain't going nowhere. But Malcolm Brogdon.
No, he's not.
Malcolm Brogdon, Justin, for all the reasons that you mentioned, the guards, the position, that part of it alone is he does, great player, solid player. He does not fit the timeline of this team. And is it brash?
What is the timeline of this team?
Anyone who's under the age of 25. So Jeremy Grant is, I'll ignore that one for now. But if I'm asking you, Justin.
But it's can Jeremy Grant be
the old man in the room?
Al Horford.
Yeah,
remember,
totally.
the Celtics
One guy can be.
The Celtics, when they finally got off of Kyrie,
yeah,
and obviously Gordon Hayward, with the injuries, it's not working. So we're going Tatum, we're going Smart, we're going Brown,
yeah,
and it's all those guys are young, plus youngish coach,
yeah.
And it's they needed Al Horford there.
They did.
And be listen, boys. We need to relax. It's December, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So, maybe that could be Jeremy Grant.
But the convenient thing there, Justin, is he plays forward. He's in the front court. So I'm asking you, can you develop Scoot Henderson the way he needs to be developed this year with the guards in front of him on the roster right now? I say no.
This is my other thing, because I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong. And I think we throw around a lot of buzzwords, and we throw around a lot of things hoping for the best. But again, I implore people to be more specific. When we say develop Scoot, what does that mean? What does it develop him? How?
Starting lineup every game.
Yeah, but but how? How are we? I'm with you. I've been screaming for him to start.
He can take 33 shots, Justin. That's fine by me. Fine by me.
Because he's got to be a better shooter.
And practice makes perfect, I heard.
Practice makes permanent. What are you making permanent? That was one up in the locker room. The locker room sign, practice makes permanent. What are you making permanent?
Love it.
Because if you make lazy, if you practice lazy becomes permanent.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that was a good one. We might put that up in the studio.
You should put it up.
Practice
And
makes
then below
permanent. What are you making permanent?
Justin, then you have to put your coach's name, and then you have to put an arrow to your coach's name saying Justin Myers.
Yes, and Michael Scott. But that's what I keep hearing, right? What was it, that old Steve Ballmer clip? Developers. Like, I keep hearing development. Like, what are we developing? 3-point shot?
Toilets, apparently.
Drive the lane.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
He's not wrong on that.
I couldn't help myself,
He
Justin.
wasn't wrong.
It's going to be an awesome stadium.
I was
Arena.
at a concert this weekend. We need more toilets in general at arenas. I'm just going to say it right now. Just more toilets in general. It's always funny when the male-female ratio flips.
Oh, it does.
A little flipperoo. Where it was like, this arena, mostly dudes. Not saying all, but mostly. And then, concert. Male-female ratio, very different.
Can I ask...
And line at bathroom, very different.
So can I ask a silly question? And I'm not trying to start any, but I'm just like, is it a law, and maybe you don't know, like, is it equitable law that, like, when you build a new structure on public land, it has to have an even number of men's and women's
I believe
bathrooms?
it does. I believe that is the law.
So that's and I would kind of expect that to be like, you can't be like, there's 9 men's bathrooms to one. I mean, for moments, like Justin said, like monster truck rally, yeah, probably be ideal.
Yeah.
But like
Taylor Swift concert, probably not.
right. So I guess how did Steve Ballmer? Did you just build more?
More toilets.
So you just build like 18 women's bathrooms, 18 men's bathrooms. Okay.
He said they had
There's gonna be
a third more than the average, which I applaud.
Yeah. So that means there will be some empty women's bathrooms, Justin.
On some nights, and then on some nights.
Well, for like the Taylor concert. Yeah. But that's interesting.
Okay, here's my idea. Now think about this real quick. Go with me real quick. Shark Tank idea. And again, I love spending millionaires and even billionaires' money. And again, probably not legal. From
legality's big that Justin and I try to find out.
Think about the technology we have in our world, right? I have seen the grass grow outside in the Arizona sunshine only to be wheeled inside a dome. We can grow grass inside in a dome. I have seen an arena that can host a basketball game, a hockey game, a monster truck rally, and a rodeo, right? The floor is so versatile at Moda Center. You should be able, through like AI, know the ratio of men to women and adjust the bathrooms accordingly. They should be interchangeable, is all I'm saying. Should be interchangeable, because you might be like, well, Justin, you go to a concert, the dude's line is short. Yeah, I know. Guess what? I have a wife. My wife has to go to the bathroom as well. And do I get to go back to my seat and enjoy the show? No, I sit there because I'm a good husband and I wait for my wife. And I'm sitting there with a bunch of dudes, and we got our Coors Lights, and we're just like, wife in line? Yep. We got to change this up. Use like AI, they know who's at the arena. Anyways. So Malcolm Brogdon's getting traded?
No, I think I honestly.
But here's my point. Last thing, and then we'll get to another make or miss. Keep hearing about development with Scoot Henderson. Like, what is that? Is it just time on the court? Is it more practice? Is it, you know what I mean? Is it working with a particular assistant coach? Is there a Scoot coach? There should be. He's number 3 pick overall. But it's like we heard the same thing about Shaden Sharp, right? Development for Shaden, development for Shaden. Like, what? What is the development? Is it, I think for Scoot, it's 3-point shooting. Can you develop 3-point shooting while playing basketball against NBA players? I don't know. I just think we throw around these buzzwords very casually. I do it as well. Not criticizing anybody here, but we just throw he's got to develop. How? How are we developing? All right. All that being said, we got to get this whole bathroom thing at arenas fixed. We got to get it figured out.
I mean, it's...
just saying, you go to...
I'll throw this out there too, Justin. maybe, and it's still something we haven't figured out. Again, an observation, not a criticism.
Boom.
One would say, Justin, there wasn't enough bathroom space against the Washington Huskies at Reser Stadium based on one man's actions.
Yeah.
So,
Happens.
still something we haven't figured out. That's a brand new stadium built this year. And
how's that guy doing?
I honestly,
we never ID'd him.
Nope.
We never ID'd that guy.
It's almost like Oregon State was like,
that got scrubbed real fast, yeah.
It got lost in Jonathan leaving. It really did.
Because there was a man on the concourse at the Washington-Oregon State game.
Final home game of the year.
Relieving himself, not in a corner.
In public. Broad public. So, yeah, we still haven't figured out bathrooms, Justin. And, I'm just going to say, I think, it's just funny how timing works. But that was obviously a week before that guy took off and headed to East Lansing. So I think, and then a whole bunch of other Beaver just emotions. I think that guy's like, man.
He loves Jonathan Smith. He's the only Beaver believer that's actually happy with Jonathan Smith because he's like, thankfully, Coach left and they stopped searching for me on the internet.
Not wrong. Not wrong. Okay, let's get to one more.
Real quick one.
Before we close out, Justin. Ooh, this will be good. Taylor Swift is officially good luck for the Chiefs.
100%. Why wouldn't she be?
I don't know, because the other men she's dated in her life have not necessarily had grand success during or afterwards. Just throw that out there.
Gyllenhaal's been he's been all right since then.
Kind of his peak when he was with Taylor.
That's very true.
I'm just saying. She stays high. Others maybe fall off a little bit. Is Calvin Harris as big as he was when he was dating her? I don't know. Was Tom Hiddleston as big as he was?
Yeah,
when he was
definitely not. Tom Hiddleston was Spider-Man, wasn't he?
No.
No. What was Tom Hiddleston?
Loki from the Avengers.
I don't know that.
Yep. So
who's the other Tom I'm thinking of?
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was he Spider-Man?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
So there was a Tom who was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Got it.
I almost said Tom Hardy, who is another actor that I like. So there you go. But yes, all that to say.
There was that, but that was the guy I was thinking of, not
Tom Holland. Yes.
I don't know this Tom Hiddleston guy, other than not good for Taylor. And I am Team Taylor all the way.
John Mayer. Has John Mayer been happy since he dated Taylor Swift? His songs and albums have been very sad, Justin. Well, the last album was called Sob Rock for a reason. Just saying. Well, she maybe discards men.
Because also John Mayer, he found his lane. He was like, this is where I go. This is
anyway,
where I go.
All that to say, back to the good luck.
How about it? Again, can I tell you also, it's fun. My wife is... we talked about it last week. She is team Kylie Kelsey. She watched the documentary. She loves Kylie Kelsey, loves Jason and Kylie. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching Jason Kelsey slam beers with his shirt off. And my wife and all the other, it's like, oh, I just love Jason Kelsey. It's like, yeah, but if I did that, I'm a drunk you know what. Jason Kelsey does it. He's awesome. Got a double standard here is all I'm saying. But yeah. Either Taylor Swift's good luck or the NFL's rigged because they want Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. Oh my God, they want it so bad.
Real quick, Justin, I asked you this months ago, and you, I'm not going to say poo-pooed, but just were kind of like, no, that ain't going to happen, Brendan. I asked you, I said, if they make it, and let me just confirm the dates here, the Super Bowl is on February 11th, 2024.
Yes.
I asked Justin, I said, do you think Taylor Swift could get from Tokyo on February 10th to the Super Bowl on February 11th?
I don't think you can.
I don't know with the time. I don't know.
Yeah, Taylor ain't going to the Super Bowl.
She got 4 straight shows in Tokyo.
Yeah,
she's
going to be
Justin.
She ain't going to the Super Bowl.
That'd be so disappointing if they make it. Put her on an overnight jet. Make it happen.
Do they do that? I don't know. Time change and international dateline. There's a lot going on there. All right. We have got Get Off My Lawn coming up in just a bit. But the lawn, you know where that's at? Right in front of my house. And how's your house doing? Do you maybe need a little bit of home improvement? Because if you do, you know who to call. My good friends at DeBella. That's right. Talk about them often because they are fantastic. 15,000. Not 5,000. No, triple that. 15,000. 5-star reviews on Google for DeBella's excellent work. That's why they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. With this Portland weather that we have been through, but you know what? Guess what? It's not stopping because the wind and the rain, it keeps coming. If your roof is a little bit old, if it maybe didn't hold up to the ice as well as you would have liked to, get a free quote from the good folks at DeBella. Plus, windows, sidings, bath projects, all of that can be done with an amazing financing opportunity of 0 down and no payments until 2025. That's, of course, on approved credit, but it is 0 down and no payments until 2025 for roofing, siding, windows, bathroom renovations, plus, how about saving 30% on your energy bills, right? Because if you upgrade and take care of your roof, take care of your windows, keeps all that heat on the inside. You don't have to crank up that heater. We're not heating the outside, as my dad used to say. 30% potential savings on your energy bills from the good folks at DeBella. Go to DeBella, DABELLA.us for a free, no obligation appointment. They can make updating your home so easy. All right, time for hour number 2. And while I am very happy, very grateful that the ice has melted away and we can go about our daily lives, it's still a Tuesday. It's still cloudy and rainy, and it's still January, and maybe some of you are still working on that New Year's resolution. Maybe you made it through maybe your dry January made it through the ice storm. If you did, congratulations. I know a lot of people that didn't. And you know what? No judgment on that either, because you know what? Your resolution is about you. It's not about anybody else. But maybe some of you are, you hit that brick wall. Brendan, we been to the gym yet? No. How we feeling about?
Well, I wasn't going to go last week.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
It was, you were locked. You were absolutely trapped in your house, just like
week and a half before that, I had COVID for almost a week. And didn't really have the...
Shouldn't be going to the gym.
Mental
with the COVID.
And, we'll see.
All right, we're going to throw an extension. We had it at the 14th, but you know what? That was...
Yeah, I paid for it.
The ice storm cometh, and so it's like we're gonna extend it. Maybe let's...
Yeah, I paid for it.
How about February 1?
I paid for it 4 days ago and was irritated with it. So it's either going to, there's no we're leaning cancel, Justin.
Let's make this the last month that we either pay for the gym or we start going. All right. So either way, this is a tough week. It's a tough couple weeks. January is really coming. Just kicked you right in the gut, didn't it?
It has. It has.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. COVID stuck inside. Enjoy that.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All that being said, it's still, like I said, it's still plenty of time for grumpiness around here. And boy, did I have something that happened this weekend. So it is now time for all of you to get off my lawn.
It's time for Justin to get grumpy. Get off my lawn on RCM.
To all the people, especially the old white ladies who are on their cell phone at a crowded Costco, you can all get off my lawn. What is the obsession with these people in particular? I don't want to paint with a broad brush, and I don't want to throw out stereotypes, but sometimes stereotypes are apropos, and boy, there's just something about old white ladies in public that just cannot stay off their phone. Whether it's their phone, whether it's their Apple Watch, I don't know what it is, but, like most everybody else this weekend, as we were coming off of the big thaw, and finally, by the weekend, we're able to get back out of our houses and into the grocery store where we needed to pick up much-needed, provisions. And we're all in this together, right, Portland? Right? We're all stuck inside together. Some of us lost power. Some of us didn't. But you know what? We all kind of hunkered down through this together. We should have all been working together to get in and out of the Costco this weekend because everybody needed their stuff, whether it was toilet paper, whether it was coffee, whether it was, the big old thing of Himalayan sea salt chips. Those are so awesome. So what is it with people in the crowded Costco, especially the old white ladies, that just cannot stay off their phone? Brendan, everybody says it's the kids in their phones, right? You hear it all the time. These kids in their phones. You know what? I don't mind the kids in their phones. You want to know why? They can multitask. Kids live on their phones, and they can walk around and keep their head on a swivel and keep somewhat of a pace going. You know who is not capable of being on their phones and being in public? Old white ladies. They are in the middle of, so, Brendan, as I was about to lose it on Sunday, and almost to the point where my wife was like, would you like to go out to the car and I can just finish this? And I'm like, no. I've made a fun little game. I am like, all right, did you ever play Slug Bug as a kid?
Sure did, yeah.
It's a lost art, the game of Slug Bug. The new
kids
ones
will have no idea.
Yeah, and the new ones that came out kind of ruined Slug Bug. It was back in the day.
It was Slug Bug, no tag backs.
Dude,
right off the top, on the bus, man.
You ever get a Slug Bug with one light out and you get a Slug Bug and Popeye at the same time?
Nope, we never got that crazy.
Did you ever play Popeye?
No.
Okay, if you're driving and one headlight's out, Popeye is top of the roof. Slug Bug is on the arm to wipe it off. No tag backs.
Yeah, I remember that well.
Slug Bug bus, big dog. Anyway, so I started playing my own little game of Slug Bug, which was how many old white ladies on their phone can I see in the middle of this Costco? I got up to 5. 5!
4 too many.
5 too many! I went to a Garth Brooks concert this summer, and they took your phone and they put it in a bag, right?
Justin, I also implore you, go to Costco on like a Monday at like 10 a.m. I know you said you had to, but
Ice.
Next time.
Ice, Brendan. I couldn't. Like DeAndre Ayton.
Just next time. Next time.
Next time I will.
Go on like a Monday at 10. You'll be like, oh, I can count like one of them.
I also got to go with my wife. Remember, I am married. My wife she comes with me. But, I went to a Garth Brooks concert. They put our phone in a bag, so you can't use it. Costco, get the phone bags. Costco needs to get the phone bags and get them out of the hands of these old white ladies so we can get the thing moving. Get off my lawn. There you go. I feel better. You know, I also feel better. Devon Pouncey, friend of the program. He's going to be joining us for the entire third hour next, 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trailblazers return to action tonight. They'll be facing off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off is set for 5 o'clock in OKC. Pregame coverage begins right here on 620 Rip City Radio at 2:30. Massive scoring night in the NBA for a couple of guys. Joel Embiid drops in 70 on the Spurs and breaks Wilt Chamberlain's Philadelphia 76ers record of 68. Karl Anthony Towns also had a night, 62 points against Charlotte, but the T-Wolves fall 128-125, and the Tennessee Titans are nearing a deal to make Cincinnati offensive coordinator Brian Callahan their next head coach. Joining us a full hour with friend of the program, basketball analyst of the Rip City Remix and the Wake Up and Win podcast, Devon Pouncey, live in studios. We start hour number 3 right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, welcome in hour number 3. Back with us live in studio. Very, very, very happy to have our next guest. Not only is he a friend of the program, but he is a basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, for the Portland State Vikings, for the Pacific Boxers. He's got the Wake Up and Win podcast. He is all over the place. And speaking of all over the place, I saw my man on the Blazers pregame show, got Brooke Olsendam and Tom Habistro to drop a super dope.
Yeah.
Devon Pouncey back with us. How you doing, bud?
Oh man, I'm good. You know, I'm everywhere like air, and I'm all over the place like space. So here I am now with you, sitting in iHeart, about to kick it as we do every Tuesday. I love it here.
I wanted to talk about this because one, the pregame show was great.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Looked great, sounded great, and I thought you did a really good job because. Well, we kind of understand, and we've had some great conversations about what's going on with the Rip City Remix.
For sure.
And what the G League has become. And it's obviously it's a growing and evolving entity, but to kind of explain it to Blazer fans who are like, all right, so it's a minor league team, but some guys go back and forth. And I thought it was not just a great job by you, but also just for the Blazers to kind of, again, give that showcase
right.
of what's going on. Because you're learning about new guys and who knows where their basketball journey is leading, because like you said, it is an ever evolving and kind of an ever changing thing going on, because it's just there's so much player movement
right.
at that particular level.
A lot of it. It's a lot of player movement, but it is also really cool. I call it it's a beauty and a madness of it. The beauty of it is that you do have these guys that get these opportunities that are able to kind of go through the ranks of playing in the G League, mm-hmm. whether it's, guys that are on two-way contracts, guys that are just on G League contracts, or first-round picks and young players that have been drafted but aren't particularly getting the minutes that they want or need in the NBA. But you still want those guys to be playing meaningful basketball, getting those reps and developing ultimately as they attempt to reach whatever would be the pinnacle of their career. But the madness of it is it's ever evolving. There's a different roster. It feels like every single mm-hmm. game, and not just because like health issues. Things are very transactional. Guys get waived all the time. Guys get called and recalled all the time from the G League to the NBA. But these are dudes that are ultimately going to make up at least what half the NBA is going to look like in future years. They're already doing that right now because they have this G League experience. So I think for people to know that there's like meaningful basketball happening mm-hmm. in the G League that will really help to dictate and determine what a lot of the future of the NBA will become, to be able to have access to that right here in your own backyard, especially in a town like Portland where we love our Trailblazers, I think it's something worth investing in and starting to figure out more about.
Well, and you're starting to see it in college, and you know me, I'm obsessed with college football.
For
right?
sure.
You know this, and it used to be real easy, right? You were a college football coach, you go out to the high schools, and you find the best high school, the 5-star guy out of high school. Now it's like, well, there's a transfer portal. There's junior college transfers. There's transfers from Group of 5. There's it's kind of open season. A lot of different roads and a lot of different paths to be able to get to a particular roster, and I think the same thing's kind of going on in basketball. It used to be very easy, right?
Yeah.
Back when Hey, I watched Shaquille O'Neal play at LSU. Like, that dude's going to be the number one pick.
For sure.
I remember it was like when it was Tim Duncan. It was like, yeah, there it is. Number one, like to where that's why we have the lottery now. Because Patrick Ewing was so good, and it was like everybody was kind of tanking.
Yeah.
We had to create a lottery. And now, while there's obviously still always going to be the draft with college players, the European players, there's the, was it the Overwatch?
Overtime.
Overtime.
Overtime
Elite. So
Overtime Elite, yeah.
You got that, and now you have the G League with the G League Ignite, who the Remix just took care of last night, by the way.
Facts. Big facts.
But, like, you see a lot of different roads kind of leading into getting to the NBA because it's an interesting time, I believe, Pounce, in the league right now. I don't know if you saw, like, the Greg Popovich comments where he's like, fundamentally, American players were just not there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of that might be a lot of sneaker money in AAU basketball.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what makes the G League that much more important, especially for the American-born players, to have a place to develop because you have these guys that are coming from overseas that are playing professional basketball at 14 years old. There's development happening there. You know what I'm saying? The ecosystem might look different, but in terms of just their games and the timelines that they're developing skill set-wise and learning how to play against guys that are older and grown and stronger and just flat out better for whatever it's worth. Like, there is more emphasis that needs to be put on G League basketball now because guys need that, especially American-born guys, need that development more than ever because the game is growing globally and the competition is getting stiffer.
Well, and here's something that I didn't know until like last summer. And I think Dwight James talked to me about it, and I know you and I have talked about it as well. Like, the intricacies and the rules that the NBA has, it seems to be getting further and further away from college basketball.
Yes.
And the fact that you've got guys now in the G League learning about, the restricted area. I know college basketball has a restricted area. It's enforced very, very differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is like a foul in a rip through? What is a foul on a screen, right?
For sure.
College, and you're probably a sneaky player. You probably did this. Guy screens you hook his arm, you throw your arm up, you get the foul called, right?
I honestly, I wasn't that type of dude. I blitz screens. I'm blitzing every time. I'm trying to come away with the steal. A lot of times I did. A few other times might have got crossed up on a quick split, but I'm blitzing 9 times out of 10.
But yeah, if you watch college basketball, you're like, they're like the way that the rules are enforced, the way that the style is played, shot clock's different and all that stuff versus now you get into the G League, and that's something because the European players were playing off of international rules, which are actually more similar to the NBA than even NCAA basketball is. I don't know if a lot of people realize that.
For sure, and definitely, and that's why I think it's real cool. Even though obviously you mentioned the Remix handled business against Ignite last night, but every bit as much as I was paying attention to what's going on with the Remix because it's who I work for, I'm watching these young players on Ignite that are now 0-13 in regular season play in the G League, but are expected to be like the future stars of the NBA. And I'm realizing like, oh, this is the first times in their lives that they're actually going up against this kind of competition and losing. Where even had they gone to college, they would have went to one of the better schools in the country that probably 9 times out of 10 would have had a winning record.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in the end in March happens in the end in March. We know how March Madness goes. But in terms of just generally being on teams because you've always been the best player in your age across this country, and now all of a sudden you get to the G League level where you're expected to be a top 5 draft pick and you're dropping every single game playing against that type of competition, there's just different lessons that are learned by that G League path traveled than you would learn through college. And in some ways, I could see where college can obviously make guys better and prepare them for the next level. But in other ways, you can see where, you're still not going to get the dose of reality, or at least near the dose of reality that you're actually going to get when you do make it to the NBA.
It's also interesting. Devon Pouncey joining us here live in studio for the entire third hour. I watched it, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and shame on me, I forgot the kid's name. But Memphis, because Memphis has been dealing with injuries and Jaws out. they're tanking.
Yeah, for sure.
And one team's tank is another player's opportunity, right? Because you're going to get, like, the Blazers, we saw this the last couple of years. Certain guys like Drew Eubanks got opportunities that he probably never would have gotten
for sure
in the NBA because the Blazers were tanking, and then he ended up getting a deal. Where's he at now?
Phoenix.
He's in Phoenix?
Yeah.
And so this kid was in the G League, and he got called up to play for the Grit. Dropped in like 24 on a game that was supposed to be a TNT. It was a TNT game, but like Ja wasn't playing because he's out for the season now. And he put on the headset and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? It's Charles Barkley." And the guy's like, "Dude, I'm talking to Shaq." Sorry, it's like, "I'm talking to Shaq right now." But it was fascinating because they were asking him about, like, what's the plan from here, and he's like, "To stay here."
Yeah,
like that's the plan right now. Like, I am here. I have no other plans other than tomorrow. I hope that I am also still here, which is it's an interesting kind of spot when you have a team in the same city playing up there at Childs Center. But like, yeah, there is the enticement of, like, Moda Center's right down there.
Yeah, you
could get on not even a phone call. It could be just walking across the practice facility and like, hey.
Yeah.
You're playing for the Blazers tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Blazers, I mean, they already practice at the same facility. So these guys are together and around each other all the time. Again, the call-ups and call-downs, if you will, are very frequent. And you have the Blazers scouts, you got the Blazers GM, you got everybody from Cronin on down that actually attend these remix games and are invested in what the remix has going on. You just had Tajay Moore make his NBA debut for the Blazers a couple of days ago. So, like, when you're that close to it, like, the fire burns.
Yeah.
And that's the play that is also on display in the G League. There's a burning fire in these guys because they're just trying to get that opportunity and ultimately stick. And when it feels like it's in hands reach, but you just still can't quite grasp it yet, like that definitely can ignite something within you. No pun intended, G League Ignite. But it can ignite something within you and make you go that much harder because it is so close in reach.
All right, I want to ask you a couple other things because we have the truth table here, Pounce.
Yes.
We do not lie to this audience.
For sure.
And I'm just out of my own personal curiosity because I've sat next to Tom Havistro before.
Okay.
I know how tall Tom Havistro is, and I know how tall Brooke Olzendam is, and felt like they had you low riding at the desk.
My seat definitely was going down as I said that. Yeah.
I was looking at him like, Pounce looks great, sounds great. Well, they've got him low.
As soon as I sat down, I don't know if it's because I'm a bigger fella and I just put more weight into the seat, but yeah, I felt like I was doing a squat up there.
Right. I just want to make sure it wasn't just my TV.
Because even when, like, I'm looking at them and, like, I don't know if I just got the leftover chair. I know we got to get to break, but, like, their hands are on the desk, and I'm, like, trying to put my hands on the desk, but it's not, like, directly in front of me. I have to, like, almost like I'm climbing up to put my hands on it. I'm like, wait a minute, something's off here. So, yeah, the chair was a little bit low for me, and I kept sinking a lot. And, fortunately, I've been going to my chiropractor lately, so they've helped me out with my posture a little bit, so I was able to kind of stay upright. But, yeah, no, definitely, that chair was sinking.
Hey, great ones adapt.
For sure.
The great ones adapt.
We make it happen. We make it happen either way.
Look good, sounded good.
Appreciate
it was so fun seeing you on TV, and I couldn't help. And look, I try to live in the moment.
For
right?
sure.
I try not to, rear view mirror smaller than the windshield because it's less important than what's behind you is less important than what's in front. All I'm saying is we're sitting here on this morning show, and you're sitting there on the Blazers pregame show, sounding great. I wonder if some particular person who maybe didn't think you and I were very good at this particular job was watching at the time. Again, don't need to be salty in this world. Need to look forward, not back. But I'm just letting you know, I was thinking.
We still at it, man. We still at it.
Just wonder, like, you had those two guys.
Together.
The whole time.
Yeah, for sure. And we're still at it all these years later. Isn't it crazy how that works?
Speaking of still at it, Devon's going to stick around. I want to get your thoughts on big night last night from Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Also, your boy Anthony Edwards. I don't know if you saw his comments after the game. Where he's like, we weren't even focused on winning. We were just trying to get Karl Anthony Towns points. And he's like, yeah, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned development. Brendan and I had a conversation earlier about the development of Scoot Henderson. What do we mean when we say Scoot's got to develop? This young team with the Blazers has to develop. I want your thoughts on what that development could be. That's all coming up next here on 620 Rip City Radio. program. With us live in studio. So let's get to some more hoops. We had this conversation earlier today, Pounce. So Joel Embiid went for 70 last night. Now, I have always said one of the most overrated records in all of sports is Will Chamberlain's 100-point night. If you know about Will Chamberlain's 100-point night, they were were fouling on purpose to stop the clock so that he could ultimately get the record. And it was a shorthanded Knicks team. It was a conceived record. Still scored 100 points in an NBA game.
Yeah,
it was a conceived record. And for my money, still the most impressive scoring game ever is Kobe's 81 against the Toronto Raptors. So we saw we've seen Dame go for 70.
Sure did.
We've saw now
courtside too.
You were there. You were on the wood.
Feet on the wood where it's all good, baby. I was there.
You were on the wood the other night too.
Yeah.
Against the Pacers.
Okay,
Against the
Against the
game.
Pacers. Yeah.
Every once in a while I pop up that Instagram and I'm like,
and I might pop up on the floor. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Pre-game show and then right there.
Right down.
They didn't put you up with the media.
Yeah.
You weren't up there with the media.
Yeah,
You weren't running stats like Brendan sometimes does. You're in the nice comfy seats where they bring you your drink.
Yes, they do.
You don't go get a drink. They bring you your drink.
They definitely have a waiter that comes to you.
All right. All that being said.
Or waitress, if you will.
Either or. Whoever.
It works. They serve it.
Is it possible for anybody in the NBA right now, in whatever team they're on the structure on, to top the 81 points? 100 points not going to happen. You have to it has to be a coordinated effort, I believe, by two teams.
Yes, I hear you.
To be able to get 100 points.
For sure.
I don't even know if 81 is still possible because that's just kind of the magic of Kobe Bryant, what was going on that night in Toronto. But when you look at scoring and all the things that have to happen, 70 points last night for Embiid. We've seen didn't Donovan Mitchell go for 70 some last year
70,
as well?
Yeah, him and Dame both I think had 70. He had 71 just before Dame had 71.
Yeah. So and then to think about all of that,
Devin Booker I think might have had a 70-point game too.
Devin Booker did have a 70-point game.
So it's a little more frequent these days.
Do you think anybody's going to beat 81? And if you do, who would you put your money on? If you had to pick a pony in the NBA of a guy that could beat the 81 points by Kobe, who's it going to be?
I mean, it would have to be a 3-point shooter. I think you gotta hit a lot of threes to get over 81. So it would have to be somebody like a Steph or a Dame, somebody who just got way hot. But I also think a part of that is analytics are a thing, and a 3 is worth more than 2, and yada yada yada. But I still got a little bit of that old school in me where it's it's still a lower percentage shot than a layup is. I mean, you watched Embiid go for 70 last night, and he only made 1 3-pointer. Yeah. He shot a lot of free throws, and made a lot of free throws for that matter. 21 out of 23 from the free throw line, but he only made 1 3-pointer. And I think what could make it a lot harder, you'll see a lot more 70-point games because of threes, the Dames, the Bookers, the Donovan Mitchells, if you will. But at the same time, I think it also makes it that much harder to score 81 points because the shots that it's going to take to score that amount of points are lower percentage shots still, even though, the amount taken is a lot different now, based on analytics and all the things. So I think, yes, it can happen, but it would take a crazy night from beyond the arc for that to happen. And I still think that's a little bit harder to do than most people think.
Well, it's interesting. And Brendan brought this up earlier, and I thought it was a good point, right? Steph is clearly, he's the greatest shooter of all time. Right?
Yes.
By every metric, he is the best shooter of all time. But he doesn't have the legs.
Right.
And so it's you would need a 3-point shooting effort. But also, I remember when Dame scored that 70, he was I'm tired as hell.
Yeah, he was gassed.
And it was and the next night was worthless. Not worthless, but he poured everything out to drop a 70 piece.
Yes, he did. And to win.
And so you got to have kind of also the legs and kind of a little bit of youth as well.
I agree with that, and that's why I think it would still have to be the perfect blend of a power player and a finesse player to be able to score 80 points. And that's why I said I do think there's an element where it's harder because the players you would expect it from based on them having to do it from beyond the arc and shoot 3-pointers is going to be that much harder because they probably don't have, the legs or even just the sheer size to be able to kind of just take it every which way from opponents that are trying to stop you from accomplishing this, as well as they're seeing the point total get higher and higher and higher based on the game that you're having. And so it takes more than just a 3-point shooter. It also takes somebody that has a little bit more power and can also transform into a power player when needed.
Devon Pouncey joining us here live in studio on 620 Rip City Radio. Pounce, a couple of years ago, I think it might have even been on your podcast. It might have been a Wake Up and Win. Available where all great podcasts are out there.
Right.
Go check out Wake Up and Win. You were on the Anthony Edwards train
early.
Yes. You were early investor. You were like, this is a guy.
This is the one.
And obviously he's having a fantastic year. He's in the MVP race. I mean, we're halfway through the season, right?
Yeah, for sure.
MVP race is absolutely real. And it started with Michael Jordan, with the whole, Republicans buy sneakers too. Like, don't offend anybody. You're a brand, right? Let's not offend anybody. We want as wide appeal as we could possibly get. So Michael Jordan very rarely kind of said anything controversial. And then it was taken to another level with LeBron. LeBron is kind of a magician at it, as like, I can still get some stuff out, but I'm still aware of my brand. And you never hear anything off the court, anything like. And so you got a whole generation of players, I think, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but very aware of their brand.
Yes, for sure. Anthony
Edwards does not care about his brand.
No. No.
As the kids say, he keeps it 100.
All right.
Yeah. You've had like 15 catchphrases in 30 minutes here. I threw out one. Didn't make that shot. All right. Every once in a while, shoot. That was a heat check.
It is a song by K-Camp called 100 that alludes to what you're talking about. That I think is a really good song. Exactly.
Who?
That's why it's funny. It's not the fact that you made the statement. It's the fact that it came from you, and you don't know who K-Camp is, and his biggest song, one of them, is called 100.
Brendan?
That's all.
Are we aware of K-Camp? Brendan knows what K-Camp is.
I'm just saying.
It was last week.
That's where it's not about you missing. It just came from you. Let's just be
2 weeks ago, it was Kodak Black, was who you were telling me about?
Yeah, Kodak, yeah.
Yeah, still got to get him on Pouncey's intro music. Thanks for the reminder, fellas. Had that little ice week and forgot about that.
Yeah, that's sure.
We'll work on some Kodak.
And I heard you had COVID the week before that. Ooh,
I know, it's been a rough.
2024.
It's been rough for Brendan, man. It hasn't been coming up, Brendan.
Yeah, it's been tough.
But yeah, we'll work on that.
So K-Camp, and then
he's got a song called 100.
100.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it's the number one HUNNID for the spelling, if that helps.
I like it.
100.
See, in the 90s,
Anthony Edwards.
In the 90s, we used to put a Z after everything. Like boys.
Right. Drop the S, add a Z.
That's it.
Swag it
That's
out.
all you need.
Yeah.
Maybe a money sign instead of an S.
Yeah.
But other
for sure.
than that,
if you get money, I got it.
All right. But Anthony Edwards has been a guy who does not care about his, hey, Alex Rodriguez is buying the team. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't
sure.
care. And so it was interesting last night. Karl Anthony Towns goes for 62, but they lost to the Hornets, and the Hornets stink. This is their 10th win of the season.
For sure.
And Anthony Edwards, after the game, I was so shocked because very rarely will NBA players say the quiet part out loud, which was Karl Anthony Towns got hot, and we got obsessed with him getting as many points as possible, and we just kind of lost focus on winning the game, which I didn't even think was a thing. But I would imagine 82 games is a lot of games. Every once in a while, you're just like, oh, yeah, we're down.
And they're the number one team in the West right now.
Number one
and they're
team
playing
in the West.
Against the Hornets.
And Karl Anthony Towns goes for 62, and the fact that Anthony Edwards was like, yeah, it was a pretty immature night because we just lost focus. We stopped caring about it. We were just caring about Karl Anthony Towns trying to get him 100. That's what he said.
Yeah,
he said we were just trying to get him 100.
I could see that wholeheartedly being the situation. It's a trap game when you're the best in the West and you're playing against the worst in the East. For what it's worth, down there at least.
And Cat gets hot.
Gets hot, and we're playing against the Hornets right now. Why not try to give him a historic night, especially feeling that we're likely to win this game as well because of who we are and who they are. And then, you just kind of lose focus on the fact that you still actually got to go out and win the game against these other NBA players, and you're just feeding your big because you got a bubble going with how well you've been playing, and it just got burst a little bit. That's common. I see it happen a lot.
That is common, I would imagine. What's not common is for a player to actually come out and say it in front of microphones.
But that's why he's such a great – that's why he is who he is, I think. I think the personality translates to the way that he plays. It's like he doesn't care about a brand or he doesn't care. Like, he just keeps it real, and he uses that to propel him to be better. Like, he's honest with himself as a player, I think, and he works in the area. He gets better in the areas he needs to get in. He gets better at because he's not in denial about who he is as a player and where and how he can grow. And I think he receives things well because of that. Like the whole incident when Steve Kerr told him on Team USA, hey, man, like, you don't work hard enough. Like, you're number one pick. You're good young player, all of this, but you don't put in the work like Steph and KD. And for him, it was like, I didn't know what it looked like to put in work like Steph and KD, but I went and tried to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't in denial that maybe I wasn't working hard enough. I just went and told my trainers, like, hey, I guess we got to work harder, and just went out there and did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a unique personality in that way, and I think it translates to his game.
All right, I want to get this in before we get to the break. Let's talk Scoot Henderson real quick.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through his rookie season.
Yeah.
Probably not the rookie season that a lot of Blazer fans thought he was going to be having. Now, that's not entirely fair, but welcome to the unfair world, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't come in and say, draft me and replace Dame with Dame.
Yeah.
But they did.
Who was Dame and won a Rookie of the Year as well when he was a rookie.
Exactly. So I think a lot of people, top 3 pick, and a lot of people had Scoot. If not for Wembanyama, maybe he would have been the number 1 pick. So I think a lot of Blazer fans maybe got a little bit out over their skis, but it's been an interesting first half of a rookie year. Started about half the games. He's clearly got some turnover stuff, but you saw some of the promise a couple nights ago, and he dropped to 33. And now we sit here, and it looks as though the Blazers are showcasing Brogdon because they're going to move him in a couple of weeks. With the second half of the year, I've been hearing all season, Pounce, this season is about development. It's not about winning and losing. It's about development, and that's great and all. Now I'm asking for specifics. Like, what's the development? What has to happen for Scoot and Shaden, for that matter, and anybody else, DeAndre, but like in particular with Scoot Henderson?
Yeah.
What has to develop? Is it the shooting? Is it getting turnovers down? Is it comfortable? Is it like I keep hearing about development, and I'm like, all right, let's take it a step further. What development?
I think to answer all of the above, because I think you kind of called out areas where maybe, there's room for improvement, if you will. For all of the above, I think for Scoot, it's more of like a timing thing. It's more of a like learning the pace of the game, learning, how to like change speeds a little bit more, learning how to kind of slow down in certain instances or speed up in other instances, and really like learning more about situations, coverages. There's so many different things that kind of goes into it, especially a player that's explosive like him. But I think coming into things, it's easy to just start off 100 miles a minute because it's impressive, first and foremost, when you can kind of put that speed on display and you're trying to kind of prove who you are and what it is that you're great at to everybody that's around you, because you do have these expectations placed on you, rather than seeing the areas where, like, you can kind of clean up your game. And I think for Scoot, once he kind of really gets his pace locked in, game to game, I'm not talking about on a night where he just figured it out or a team just couldn't stop what he's doing because he just had a God-given ability to do so. But I'm talking night in and night out, being able to just kind of really get his pace locked in where it's kind of he gets to dictate how the game is going to go rather than be dictated sometimes because he might be playing too fast or he might be coming off the gas a little bit too much because he's trying to figure it all out. I think everything else will kind of fall into place. His jump shooting will fall into place. He'll be able to find and pick his spots a lot better. His turnovers, I think the plays that he's willing to make, the risk that he'll be willing to take will look a lot different, and he'll clean those kinds of things up. And so I think once he kind of just finds out what his pace is at this level and not just solely lean into his athleticism or just come all the way off the gas and not lean into his athleticism as much as he probably should in certain situations, everything else will kind of start to fall in line development-wise.
And it's probably, you talked about changing pace and not going at 100 miles an hour or going pedal to the metal. It's probably got to be a little bit frustrating because I could only imagine his entire life that's never not worked.
Exactly.
It's never not worked. Like,
Exactly.
I get the ball. I go fast to the hoop. Nobody has ever stopped me ever,
Right.
even including G League last year. And it's like now it's like, yeah, you're not there. You're not
It's
there.
like
Those guys are fast. They've cut off the angle, and
they're bigger, longer. Like it's everything. Like so I agree with you wholeheartedly there.
I see, I can see it. Like at times, again, like if he can ever finish, because you can see the speed and you can see him get there, and it's like I don't know if there's a little bit of because he got a couple of balls thrown back in his face early on in the season, and maybe there's but once that clicks.
Yeah, I think everything else.
You can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. And on nights where he has big games, you can see it. And again, a lot of times there's plays that I look at more so. Like, I even got to watch Ron Holland last night with the Ignite, and he had 15 points, and which is solid. Didn't have the greatest shooting night, but there were certain plays that he made that you're like, oh, he's the only player on the floor that can make that play and make it look that easy. That's why he's projected to be a top 5 pick. And I've seen some of that from Scoot as well, where those are plays that are electrifying plays that only Scoot could make on this team. But you got to be able to pick your spots when to be able to make those plays because you won't be able to do it time and time and time again. And once he gets all that figured out, I think the sky's the limit still for him.
All right, coming up next, normally we do the RCM mailbag. Now, we will be asking questions, but for fans of Justin and Devon back in the day on a different radio station, we're going to bring back. I've been toying with bringing this back, and I felt like, you know what, time is right.
Let's do it.
The time is right. Classic old segment. Brendan might get a little bit uncomfortable, but that's going to be okay. The listeners may get a little bit uncomfortable, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Tell you what that is next. 620 Rip City Radio. also going to learn about each other. But years ago, when it was the Justin and Devon radio program, I had an idea. It was a weird time in our country, kind of like right now.
And in our company at that time.
And in our company. Forgot about that.
Let's not forget what inspired all of this.
I forgot that was part of the inspiration. Blacked that whole thing out of my memory.
Yeah.
What a weird time. Don't even have anywhere close to the amount of time to bring up that weird time on our radio station.
Absolutely.
We were middays, interesting afternoon drive time show.
Yes.
And so there was some tension. And so I was like, we need to break up this tension because some of the problems that maybe we have is that we're afraid to ask the question. So you and I, our friends, we have love for one another. We know that we are coming from a place of love and not hate. We're coming from a place of curiosity and not criticism. So we created a segment called Ebony and Ivory where I can ask Devon questions that I have as a white dude from Southern Oregon about black culture.
Fact.
And then you can, in turn, ask me
as a black guy from the Bay Area, relocated to Portland.
So we created the segment Ebony and Ivory. Let's fire it up.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck
Sorry, not the mailbag.
question.
Ebony and Ivory, the song.
What do we have first?
That was my fault. That one's on me. Set it up wrong. My fault. Here we go. Let's we're going to try. Best.
No, you OGs.
The best.
I contrary to a lot of stereotypes, I had the great fortune of being a black man that was raised by a black father, and so I was laced by my OGs. I as my guy Louis Belt would say, he's got a comedy special. I'm raised by OGs, not IG. You know what I'm saying? Like that's me. So the game that you get, the rawness and the realness that you're able to get from older black men, especially. I'm fortunate to have a lot of experience in that regard because I hung around with my dad a lot. I hung around with my pops, and they tend to be pretty raw and uncut about things when they come together. And sometimes it could go overboard and be a bit harsh.
It was best.
You got to have tough skin and you got to kind of stick it out. And the entertainment value is always unmatched.
That's what I was going to say.
It's always unmatched.
I eavesdropped for 30 seconds, and I was like, this is the best. I want to hang out here. And I'm just I'm bagging up my groceries.
Yeah. And they pop it the best, quite frankly. You know what I'm saying? Hey, there's a reason why, the world loves rap, and the rap kind of started from, these were the dudes that created rap that you're talking about right now, or were a part of the earlier stages of rap and hip-hop. They got away with words, man, even if they're MFing you.
Okay, real quick, because you mentioned hip-hop. Obviously, I grew up on 90s hip-hop. I loved hip-hop culture growing up.
Facts.
And
they did too.
They did. You DJ a lot.
Yes.
Now, not all DJing events are the same.
No.
Question to you. What's the widest song on your playlist?
Oh, I could get real wide. I live in Oregon. I can go Tennessee whiskey. I can go you know what I'm saying? I could get down there, especially living here. So yeah, but I think off the top of the head, probably Tennessee whiskey. It's pretty white. That's
Chris Stapleton, white guy with soul though.
With soul, you know what I'm saying? But as somebody who's anti-country music, that's pretty out there for me.
You put on Tennessee whiskey in a room full of white people, we are gonna
going
vibe.
up.
We are vibing
For sure. It's going up. So that's probably what I would say off the top of my head is the whitest song on in my decks for sure. I got one for you now. How is it, and this you might like this one because you're a food guy too.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that Arby's is still in business?
Because it's awesome.
Brendan coming in.
He came in a little.
Dude, the curly fries. It's the curly fries. And like
They have the meats.
They have the
I'll
meat,
leave it
but-
at that.
But like, I'm used to like when we talking meats, I'm talking like real barbecue. Like, if that's the meats, like, I don't know.
I'll tell you this. I'd pick Arby's over a handful of fast food places that are available. Like, you give me an Arby's over Mickey D's, I'd take it. You give me an Arby's over Taco Bell, I'd take it.
Really?
You give me an Arby's over...
There's your answer.
probably.
Yeah,
Brandon,
that's what
you found
he
me.
came in hot.
You found me, Joe.
I love it. It's the yeah. It's funny because
I've never
honestly, a
ate
group
Arby's
of-
a day in my life.
Really?
Curious.
You've
One
never had
time.
Arby's.
Never.
Really?
We didn't go
Okay.
to black people don't.
Okay,
Ask Snoop
that's
Dogg.
that's
We don't
interesting
really
to me.
go to Arby's like that. Have you ever seen a black person eat Arby's before? Can you recall?
But the
It's
only
Portland.
it's true.
Sorry, just have to be honest.
Very
You
true.
got-
Great point. But I'm saying I grew up in the Bay and never went to
Yeah.
Arby's, and I
Okay,
had
that's
one
fair,
like
that's fair.
in my neighborhood. It's just not really a thing like that for us.
See, this is why this segment is the best.
Absolutely.
I have learned, I didn't know, Brendan, I don't know if you knew either, black people don't go to Arby's. Now
The more we know.
This, because you see
How's
the
it-
commercial and it's like,
You never see
know
a
the
long
voice,
line in the drive-through.
but you know the guy that does the commercial, like, we have the meats. Like, I don't know what ethnicity is, but I could guess.
Okay, here's my next question. Have you ever seen a like crazy line at Arby's like you've seen at other places that he's named?
There is,
The drive-through is usually pretty empty.
all right, so there is an Arby's off of like 82nd and Southeast.
Okay.
And like it's on my way to like Costco. So I drive it at least once a week. And I have the same thought as like, who are these people going to Arby's?
Yeah, like
But it's Brendan.
it's Brendan.
Brendan and the boys.
Brendan and the boys in
and the boys.
Sherwood.
Could be, man.
Now I will say,
It fits Sherwood to a T.
Exactly.
the Arby's sauce,
Oh, so
like it's a unique, like you've never had, like,
ketchup and barbecue, man. It's delicious.
but it's also, but there's something else
Yep,
in
yep.
it.
To hear y'all hyped about Arby's is great right now.
Dude, for me, like the curly fry, like they used to have the Big Montana. They don't have the Big Montana anymore. All right, we gotta go. We can talk about this all day. This is a tremendous segment.
Yeah, for
Glad
sure,
we brought it
for
back.
sure.
All right, Pound's gonna be on Remix Games all season long. Check out the Wake Up and Win podcast as well. We're back tomorrow morning. Have a terrific Tuesday, everybody. 620 Rip City Radio.